came to me in the strangest way. That book, Say Nothing, was made into a television drama.
Okay.
And I was a producer on the show, and I was living in London with my family while we made it. And I was on set one day, and I got to chatting with a guy. I was literally doing the Wordle on my phone, and a guy sat down next to me. But I think it's good for, if you're a reporter, to be curious and start conversations with strangers. So
Always.
I started chatting with this guy, and he figured out that I write for The New Yorker, and I write these kind of investigative narrative pieces. And he said, I might have a story for you. And what he said was, there's a family here in London that I'm very close with, and they, in 2019, had this tragedy. They lost a son. Their 19-year-old son, Zach, died in mysterious circumstances. He went off the building of a luxury apartment building and died in the Thames, in the river there. And after he died, his parents made this shocking discovery. They learned that, unbeknownst to them, he had had a secret double life, and he had been pretending that he was the son of a Russian oligarch. And this guy had said about that much to me, and I knew, if the family will talk with me, I'm in. I have to write about this.
It is a crazy story, and I was just in the UK, and I told you before you came on, all of my friends with school-age children are now reading this book, especially given the boarding school culture and the day school culture in the UK. This is an upper middle class family. The parents are children of Holocaust survivors, prominent rabbis. One was even on television for a while. They send their kids to a good school, maybe not the best of the best, but like a top school. And you have these two brothers. One does slightly better than the other, and the other just can't ever seem to think that he's good enough and ends up getting obsessed with, at this era, talk about what's going on in this era in London with this Russian money and this influx of oligarchs' kids, and he just wants that life and kind of starts pretending that he is that kid.
Yeah, that's one of the kind of strange aspects of this story is this boy, Zach Bretler, was born in the year 2000, so he's a real child of the millennium, and he comes of age at a time when London is changing. There's a huge amount of foreign wealth coming into London. There's a lot more conspicuous consumption, luxury real estate. There's a whole kind of blingy
Right, we're going
vibe.
away from like mud-splattered Land Rovers and muck boots and tweed, and
it's
more
much
like
more sort of new money ostentation. Yeah. And then, he's also kind of a social media native. He grows up on Instagram. And so if you have those kinds of preoccupations, if, as he was, you're interested in supercars and luxury apartments and that kind of thing, and you're just scrolling, you start to see more and more of that stuff. And he became really obsessed with wealth. And, one of the ironies is that his family is pretty comfortable. I mean, they lived in a nice neighborhood. They had a big apartment.
These are nice schools they're sending them to.
His father works in finance. They, goes to a fancy private school. But in comparison to the children of oligarchs who were at school with him, he felt poor. He felt as though he didn't have enough. And so part of what this story is about is that kind of sense of anxiety he felt, and then his desire as a teenager to kind of con his way into that next level.
The story is about this kid and this young man. It's also about what's happening in London. You follow some of these characters around this real estate boom. But it's also just kind of a story about parenting and how little you can know someone that you've raised from infancy. I mean, you've got two boys. Was that really the crux of why you ended up pursuing this and what you think the heart of it is?
Yeah, I mean, this was something that kind of, listen, on the front end, I was drawn to it because it's kind of a mystery, right? It's sort of a thriller. It's really a story about...
And you still don't really solve it. I mean, you have ideas,
well, I think I roughly know what happened, but the it's a story about these parents basically who are trying to investigate their kid's death, and they have to sort of become detectives and figure out what's going on. What snuck up on me as I was working on it is that it really is a story about parenting and about adolescence today and what it's like to see, one of these people who you feel like you know really well, you love them the most in the world, they live under your roof, you raise them, but they kind of turn into a bit of a stranger, and sort of coming to terms with that and trying to figure out, in Zach's case, not just the mystery of how he died, but the mystery of who he really was when he was alive.
You worked with the family very closely for this book. The case made headlines when the death happened, and they have been very critical of the police investigation and how this all went on. How are they doing? Are they okay with all this publicity? Has it made it harder? How are they?
I think they're doing all right. You know, okay. I texted with them this morning. I talk with them all the time. When we launched the book here at the 92nd Street Y in New York back in April, they actually came and they were in the room, not just the parents, but also Zach's brother, Joe.
Yeah.
And so I think they feel good about the process of having opened up to me in this way. It is inescapably weird to be in London and see the book in shop windows, to know that people are reading about your family's tragedy, you know, on the beach during the summer. That's strange.
Or listening to it on my run. Yeah,
exactly. But having said that, they are an uncommonly resilient family, and part of what the story is also about is learning to keep moving and keep living in the face of loss.